Today on the podcast, we're talking civil design innovation, augmented reality, and 3D printing. This is the Kansas City Podcast. Welcome to the Kansas City Podcast. I am your host, Cole Lindbergh. Many of you know me from my archaeology field work, and if not, it's nice to meet you. That's a joke. Each week here on the Kansas City Podcast, we are joined by a one-of-a-kind KC native for a conversation on life in the city of fountains. And, if it's your first time listening to the show, or if you didn't listen to last week's episode, it was a very exciting time as we won the best local, I don't even know if win is the right word. It was printed somewhere as best local podcast from 435 magazine, best local podcast in the city. So I feel that extra need. I feel that extra, I've got to raise the bar. I've got to raise the game. You know what I mean? I've got to continue to push myself to the limit. And that's what I'm doing today, because I am in a fancy office building. And a lot of times when you walk into fancy office buildings, at least for me, I immediately get kicked out because they say, "Who's this guy? What are you doing here?" But I've actually been invited.
We tried to kick you out.
You tried.
Barged right in.
Well, and I basically sat down and I was like, no, I'm not leaving until we talk. Your security guy was real nice. What was his name? Rob? Yeah, Rob was real cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am in Overland Park. I am at BHC RHODES. Based in Overland Park, Kansas, BHC RHODES has provided civil engineering and surveying expertise for over 26 years. They offer services to customers in the commercial development, telecom, and public works industries. They were recently named in Kansas City Business Journal's 2018 Top 10 Fastest Growing Area Businesses and listed as a hot firm by Zweig Group. Very exciting. And I have here sitting with me today, he is a design engineer here at BHC RHODES. Yep. He's involved in many projects, many of them Kansas City based. And we're going to talk about some of this stuff today. He's going to enlighten me on many things here. Please welcome to the Kansas City Podcast, Austin Lage. Austin.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being on the show. How do you feel about that introduction? You have a lot to live up to now.
Yeah, I know.
Are you feeling okay?
I feel like I just need to talk for like 10 minutes.
Go ahead. That's what it's all about. Austin, here's the deal. Design engineer. I know what an engineer is, and that's where you drive a train. I know what a designer is, and that's where you put furniture in rooms. What is a design engineer?
Well, it's actually just designing furniture to go into trains, and then I drive those trains.
Brilliant. You have the best job ever.
Yeah. So I work in our development group.
Okay.
Basically, a company comes to us, our client, they say, "Hey, we want this building. We want it on this property. Do it. Here's some money."
Okay, right.
We work with the architect. The architect sends us the building footprint. We have our surveyors go out. They survey this plot of land, and then we take both of those and we say, okay, here's where we want our building. And then we, as a design engineer, we work on everything outside of the building. So I do all the storm design, all the sewer design, the roads, the driveways, the parking lot.
Okay, so basically, like everything outside of the building, that all the groundwork and everything, basically the outside look, like when I was driving in today, I drove over a nice little bridge and I drove in through the parking lot. So you're talking about all that type of stuff.
I'm a parking lot designer.
No, you're not.
Glorified parking lot designer.
You're more than that. You're more than that. So when you get these projects and stuff, I feel like there's situations where you're probably saying, "Oh, okay, this would be really cool," but all right, okay, a parking lot's a parking lot, right? But I'm always fascinated by the intricacies of we have to have this storm drain here because there's a cable that's running over here, and so you're basically putting together a giant puzzle to try to make it all work.
Yeah, and so you can get from point A to B and then realize you need to be at Z. So.
I'm starting to think of, did you ever play SimCity when you were a kid?
Yeah.
All right, is it like SimCity? No.
I wish it was that easy.
You wish it was that
I
easy.
wish I could just go to the toolbar, pick road, and just draw one.
I'm trying to like relate my experience, like, because I think I like spent some time doing like some AutoCAD work, like in high school and college and everything, which was just kind of whatever.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, I was like, hey, I'm gonna play Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna play SimCity again. So, all right, so you get this file, you look at all the things, and then it's your job to put it all together. And then do you outline the plan? Do you like just like I'm kind of trying to figure out the process.
Yeah, so we start with this, we call it our existing survey. We take that, and then from there I look at the different grades, so elevations on the plan, and I go, okay, well, if it's an existing site and I've got to add on one of our projects, we're just adding on 3 parking lots. So I say, okay, well, here's my bounds. Here's where I have to connect to, and it has to work here, and then I go from there and I build these parking lots out of that into no man's land, which is really right now it's just sod, it's just grass. So I put up massive retaining walls, and the client seems happy. So
very nice. Okay, all right. So I know you've gotten to work on a few projects in Kansas City.
Yep.
I mean, is there anything that comes to mind that you're like, hey, this was something we did, or something we can talk about there?
Yeah. So the new Audi facility out at 67th and I-35, right across from Aristocrat, on the other side of the corridor.
Yeah.
That was my favorite project that I've worked on so far. I had a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Big 7 or 6 acre lot, underground detention.
What does that mean?
So underground detention, a lot of places they have above ground detention, which is a pond.
Oh, okay.
Best way to put it. So there are 2 types of above ground detention. There's wet and there's dry. And
Okay.
So wet would be the pond outside of our building, where it always has water in it to a point.
Okay.
And then it raises up as rain comes in. Or you have a dry, which is always dry unless rain comes in.
Okay.
And so then it gets released into the storm system slowly so that it doesn't flood the entire city.
Oh, okay, great.
So
Right, brilliant.
Underground detention is
Because that would be bad.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that's bad.
We don't want people just surfing, Metcalf.
Yeah. I imagine some people haven't already
It
tried
would
to
be
surf
fun,
Metcalf.
but it would be dangerous.
All right, so you had that. What else?
So, real quick. So underground detention.
Oh, okay,
It's
yeah.
just you have these chambers. We're using plastic chambers, and they go under the parking lot. And we do this because there's no room on this site to put above ground detention, because it is these detentions are massive. The one at Audi is 50,000 cubic feet. That's how much detention we have, and that's,
seriously?
Yeah, it's a lot. Whoa. So, it's a lot of fun to see how these fit together, and we have 3 different detention systems throughout this site. So
That's insane. So I mean, so basically, because if I'm picturing that place in my mind, that's 'cause it's kind of on a hill, isn't it? kind of on a hill.
it is on a. I mean, it is above the
Right, it's
corridor,
above-
but the site is actually relatively flat.
Yeah.
So there's one spot where we had to put a pretty large retaining wall, but that's just because we wanted more parking, so we had to move some grades back. So
How long does a project like that take? Like from them originally coming to you and saying, "Hey, we're gonna." Like just your part. Like I know it's going to take time to build a place, but just like your actual part.
So really, my part extends for the entire project.
Really?
I mean,
Okay.
So as soon as we get the project, we go out and survey, which technically is not mine, but I'm already doing work outside. Figuring out utilities where they are, calling different places, saying, okay, can we do this? Can we do that? Right. We're in Merriam, so I'm calling the city and saying, is it okay that we put this here?
Are you okay with this?
Yeah.
Right.
So this project started probably January of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So last January. And we are still, it's just starting to get built. It needs to be built by March or April.
Okay.
They don't really have a choice.
Okay.
They're getting kicked out of their old place. They need to move into this place. It's getting there, and it's coming up relatively quick. But I mean, just to get our CDs, which are construction documents, our permit to send out to the contractor, and the city's okayed it. I mean, we sent those out in May
Of 2017.
of 20. 18.
Okay.
Maybe it was January of 2018. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So January 2018. So that's a year.
Yeah.
And it took us a year to design this. Most civil packages are 25, 30 pages. This one's 50.
Okay.
Just because of the site's very long, so everything had to be cut in half, and it took a lot of.
So there's a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so you've been working now on this project for over a year and a half.
Yep.
And it's slowly. I mean, do you ever get frustrated? Like, hey, why does this
every single day? Every day is a new frustration.
Okay.
But it's fun. I mean, it's not like it's I'm so frustrated I'm going to quit and I hate this project.
Well, no, it's like part of the day to day. Like,
yeah.
Oh, great, now we have this.
And me being 2.5 years out of school, it's a frustration. It's a new learning experience for me. Okay, next time, this is what I need to do to avoid this frustration, or this is just a frustration I'm always going to have.
I just find it crazy that like it's okay because basically once the project is completely finished, it's going to be 2 years, 3 months, all right?
Yeah.
So you're looking like 28 months, 26. Oh yeah, I'm good at math.
Yeah.
Man, get me on that AutoCAD. So to follow a project basically from the beginning to the end and stuff. I mean, is this one of your first major big projects that you've actually gotten to watch from beginning to end?
For the size, yeah, and yeah, I would say it's my first major project because I really took control, and I told my boss, I said, hey, let me have this one.
Yeah.
I know you got other things going on. Let me take care of everything. I'll keep you in the loop, but.
So it's your baby. So
yeah.
like, do you go and look at it? Do you go and take a picture? And
after
like,
this, what do you think I'm going to do?
You're going to go check on it?
Yeah, make sure it's okay.
What about any other Kansas City projects you've worked on? Anything else in the city?
So we've done a couple hospitals. We've done 4 of them.
Okay.
They're small hospitals trying to alleviate the big hospital rush.
Right.
And, hey, I just broke my arm, so I need to go somewhere.
Right.
And don't want to wait a long time.
Yeah.
So we've done one in Overland Park. We've done one in Shawnee, one in Olathe, and one in KCK.
What's something that you want to work on? Like, do you have like a pipe dream? Like, this is every design engineer's dream.
So
it's to do this. It's to build this. What is it?
So a lot of design engineers, grading is not the most fun because it's
grading the ground. And,
saying, okay, well, at this point it's this elevation.
Yeah.
At this point it's this.
Right.
Not a lot of people like doing it.
Well, yeah, because you're basically looking at a sheet of paper with and you've got all these different like they color here this height is this color green and this okay.
And I freaking love it.
Okay,
it is calming to me. I could come in on a Saturday, which no one likes coming in on Saturdays, but I'm like,
but you do, Austin.
But I'm here every Saturday for those that are listening from our company. 12 hours on Saturday. If you don't see me, it's because I'm hiding, but I'm still working.
You're still here.
I love grading. It's a lot of fun. It's one of those, it's a puzzle, and once you get done, it's like this huge relief, and you're like, oh, this is my masterpiece.
Yeah.
So what I would really like to do is a much bigger project, like 40 acres, and grade that out and see if I would be able to do it with, how much help would I need.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be a lot of fun. So just a large project, whether it's residential or commercial, doesn't matter to me.
Do you have a hard time visualizing it on paper? Like, do you have that ability? Like, I know some people can like look at a blueprint or look at something and just be like, in their mind, they can exactly see how it turns out. Like,
yeah.
I'd do you have that skill?
When I started, absolutely not. I had no idea. They're like, this is a plan set. And I was like, that's nice. I'm Austin.
These are papers. Thank you.
I recycle this? Is that what you?
Where's the restroom? Oh God, I gotta throw up.
But now especially when they're my plans. I mean, it's a lot easier. And, but yeah, I mean, if you've never seen the plans and you're looking at them, it can be hard to distinguish what they are. And that's what we're trying to help with our clients because they don't deal with what we deal with. So we're trying different directions to see what they want to do.
They don't care. I'm assuming that some of them don't really care where you're putting like the electrical line, you
Right,
know,
yeah.
like they don't probably, they hire you to figure all that out so they don't have to.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, if you can present to them like a plan that says, hey, here's your parking lot, you got this beautiful grassy hill and all this
Yep.
stuff, don't worry about any other parts,
Right.
then you've done your job.
Yeah, and really just keeping the client in the loop, just saying like, hey, this is what we're doing, you know, especially if it's going to cost them money, saying, hey, so we have to put this wall here, and walls are not cheap, and especially to design walls, and so, you know, letting our client know this is what's going on, but they say, okay, well, can you send me, you know, this concept plan, which is a PDF, I mean,
Yeah.
a piece of paper that they're going to print out, and they're going to look at, and some of them, you know, can really dive in there and say, oh, yeah, I know what this can be. But some of them, they have trouble, and that's where we're here. You know, they'll call us, hey, what's this? And so we've looked at using 3D modeling, 3D printing to help the client out. We did that with Audi. We printed them out a 1 to 60th scale, so 1 inch equals 60 feet. They absolutely loved it. We went to a meeting when I showed them this, gave it to them, and I didn't think it would help this quickly, but we were in the meeting and like, oh yeah, so what's this hill over here like? And I was like, oh, let me show you. Like, you know, we brought up the 3D model, and, you know, it's nice because they can really visualize. It's not on paper. Now it's 3D. And so for me, on paper, I can read the contour lines. I can say, okay, well, it's draining this way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
And so the modeling really helps them do
So,
that.
okay, so you mentioned 3D printing because I've got a lot of questions about this because basically technology is reaching a point where you can do more and more crazy things with 3D printers and you know, like virtual reality and all this type of stuff.
Yep.
So you basically for Audi.
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 I think it's Audi, yeah.
I call it Audi. Any Audi, it doesn't matter.
Audi says Audi, so I say Audi.
Audi. So you basically came up with a plan, took all that, and then you converted it into something that was printable
Yes.
on a 3D printer.
Yeah.
And presented it to them basically like a model.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to build it yourself. You know, like I'm thinking like little model makers over there like chipping away
I
stuff.
just had
with,
Play-Doh,
like,
yeah. I just had Play-Doh and was like, man, I hope this is right.
I bet you somebody. I mean, I assume that like Play-Doh is something that has been used in model making before. So when you're doing that, I mean, do you just 1 to 60? So like, how many in total? How many inches did the model?
I think it was 18 inches.
Okay,
And we could do the math.
we could,
But we won't.
We won't because math is hard.
Yes.
And you do math all day, and I'm not here to ruin your day. Okay, so you have this model. You
Yep.
create the model. How long does it take to print it? Do you print it in house here?
No, we'd like to at some point. We
Yeah.
really just want to make sure it's something our clients want. Because if we're giving this to our clients and they're saying, well, this is where
I've seen a few 3D printers, and I've spent some time with a few of them, you know, like printing like little parts for like toys or little, you know, like little things. But seeing like what people are doing now, like giant models and like creating this stuff, it kind of blows my mind.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's getting crazier and crazier, the amount of things that you could like print.
Yep.
But I think about like, okay, how cool is it that you can have a 3D representation of basically what it is that you want to do?
Right.
But what happens if they look at it and go, oh, no.
Yeah, and so that's what we've talked about. You know, once we get this preliminary development, the preliminary design done, you know, it'd be nice to have a 3D printer here so we could print it real quick, send it over to the client. Whether they're, you know, if they're here, we can go take it and talk to them. If they're not, ship it to them. And yeah, if they're like, oh, this is garbage, then we can say, okay, well, what do you want to change? Because now you have it.
Yeah.
And the building, we always have the building on there.
Yeah.
So what we've gone with is we want to try to do it at plan scale, which is usually 1 to 20 or 1 to 30.
Yeah.
And then as a vertical scale, it'll be 2 to 1.
Okay.
So it's because the main thing is we want to see the curb lines.
Yeah.
Because that defines our drives.
It's interesting to me that like, because you think about, you see buildings popping up all over the place. You see like new restaurants and hotels and all this stuff that's going in. And I'm always blown away because I always think about, okay, you know, there's a guy that's building it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and there's people that are construction workers and people that are, you know, plumbers and all these people that are building the building. And I hardly ever think about what's going on underneath the ground.
Right, yeah.
And so it's just like, you're kind of blowing my mind right now because I'm like, oh yeah, what if there is a like an underground pond, or what if you can't, you like hit a giant rock face and you got to figure out a way to go around it and stuff. I'm kind of at like a loss here, because it's so much more, because it's a whole world that you don't see.
Right. And so most people, they look at a building like, that's a nice building.
Yeah.
And when I look at the building, I'm like, that's a nice curb line. Like, they built that real nice.
Are there other people that like you that look at it and say, yeah, that's a nice curb line you got going on there? No.
But my friends know that, like, yeah, if I'm driving, I'm like, who did that curb line? That's garbage.
We're going to go on an architecture tour, and man, look at all these high sky. Man, check this out down here.
That's 6 inches. Yep.
You see that storm drain? Whoa.
Yeah, we call that standard curb. And so my friends will send me pictures, and they'll be like, look at this curb line. I'm like, oh, that is nice. That is it. But I know they're making fun of me, but I don't care.
You don't care, because that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. What you love, curb lines.
Exactly. So,
what are some other technological things that BHC RHODES is doing? Yeah, you got the 3D printer, but I think I remember you mentioning to me something like virtual reality. Or,
So with
what's going on with that? That sounds even.
So we had
you're getting crazier.
I know.
And I want to say this again. We're talking about parking lots, but now we're talking about virtual reality parking lots.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So go for it.
I don't know, a month and a half ago, we went over to Pulse with our interns, and it was really just supposed to be the interns. And I said, nah, I'm going to tag along.
You're going to go for it.
And Pulse does their, they do augmented reality and virtual reality, and they do virtual reality for all their hospitals and all their hospitals.
So basically, let's say I'm buying a hospital or I'm building a hospital, I could go like basically get a virtual reality tour of the hospital.
Yeah. So at first it was like for them it was an add-on, and the biggest thing for them is they wanted to make sure that nothing came up that they didn't foresee. Yeah. So, say that they didn't realize this column right here is going to affect this piece of equipment, and now they got to move that column, and it's a huge change order, and they have to spend a ton of money. They want to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
Which is great, because that's what we wanted. We want to make sure that we see everything that could go wrong right there. We want to see before it gets built, because then we can say, that drive is too steep. That drive's not steep enough. This storm inlet is not going to work. So with virtual reality, that's what Pulse does with virtual reality. We don't think we want to go that direction, because you can't be on site with it, and it costs a lot of money to do virtual reality.
Sure.
So the best way to put it, virtual reality is like Ready Player One, the movie. Yeah. So that whole movie is based on virtual reality, a virtual world. We want to do augmented reality, which would be like Pokemon Go.
Okay.
And so what it does is
like the dancing banana on Snapchat.
Yeah. Okay. So what it does, it takes you use a phone or a tablet. It uses your camera. It can see all the world around you, and then it adds on pieces of virtual reality.
Okay. So so let's say I'm a guy that I come to you and I say, hey, I'm building a car lot, or I'm building a hospital or something like that. Here's where I'm building it. Mm-hmm. And we go out there. And so what you're saying is that I basically, like at some point in time, I could take like my phone or my tablet or whatever and point it at that area.
Yep.
And basically the app, or however it did it, would basically be able to map the area and then put what changes you guys are going to be able to make on top of it. And like I could just move it around and look at it.
Yeah. So what we'd have to do is, and this is what we're working with Pulse with. We would take our surface, which we do in CAD. We'd give it to them. I'd work with them. We'd make it look nice and pretty.
Yeah.
I would go out on site most likely before I went with the client, and I would scale it correctly, and then the way they put it is staple it onto the earth.
Okay, yeah.
And so that way it doesn't move when I move around.
Yes.
So that I can move wherever I want, and wherever I move the iPad.
It tracks it the whole time, yeah.
And so you can still see everything around you.
See, I think that's cooler than virtual reality.
Yeah.
I think that's cooler because I think you're actually going to go to the place and then like, oh, I'm looking at it and then I put the iPad in front of my face and then I see it like there in the space.
Yeah.
And I'm actually standing outside looking at it. That sounds cooler to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we think we need to go for our client relations. And we think that's what they want, they would want to see is their site right there, right then, and say, yes, this is what I want. This looks nice. Or, again, absolutely not.
So, or for you even, like, you're like, man, my grading that I did on this, it does not work.
Right.
It does not look good.
Yeah, and that happens. I mean, you cannot, it's hard to foresee everything with grading. The computer could say, oh, I think this is what you're trying to do, and it will auto-pick some points, and you just don't see it. And so that's where with 3D printing, usually we're working with 1 to 5, 1 foot and 5 foot contours. I'm getting down to 10th foot and half foot contours just to make sure nothing happens, because we 3D printed something and then it had a hole in it, and we're like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah. And so you've got to like figure out, okay, go back, and then you're basically looking at computers and pages again and just trying to figure it out.
Exactly, yeah.
Man, where'd you go to school?
I went to K-State.
I won't hold that against you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when it comes to this, there's so many, when you went to school, did you expect, like you knew that this is what you were going to be doing, right? No?
So a little backstory.
Yeah, no. I'm interested in this because at what point do you get to the point where you're like, you know what I want to do? I want to
parking lots.
I want to look at parking lots. I think I want to figure out parking lots. That's what I want to go to school for. There's not many people that do that, I don't think.
So I wanted to go to school for secondary education. I was a camp counselor growing up at Outdoor Education Laboratory. If you guys haven't signed up and you have kids, maybe sign up.
Yeah.
Great camp here in town. And then from there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a science teacher. I'm gonna be a math teacher because I'm good at those things.
Yeah.
Both my parents are civil engineers.
Oh.
They do not do anything close to what I do.
Oh, okay.
So that's how broad civil engineering is. And so they said, well, how about you try civil engineering because you're good at math and science.
Yeah.
And then if you don't like it, secondary education.
Right.
Because it's a lot harder to go from secondary education to engineering than engineering to secondary education.
Makes sense.
So did that. Actually failed a surveying test. And this is where everything, this is defining my life. I failed a surveying test, and I went up to my professor, and I said, what did I do wrong? We went over it, ended up getting an A in the class, and ended up loving the class. I really liked the professor. Professor really liked me, so he helped me out with getting my first internship out in Aspen, Colorado, Carbondale, Colorado, with river restoration.
Okay.
Small company, 5 people.
Yeah.
But they really helped me with Civil 3D, which is what we use in AutoCAD, Civil 3D, and built fish habitats, built whitewater parks through rivers.
Yeah.
Had a blast.
That sounds pretty awesome. Yeah.
And so then I came back from the summer and went to work for another company. It was okay. Nothing special, but I lived in Manhattan, and it was a fun summer.
Yeah.
So, and then it was a choice.
Manhattan.
In Manhattan. Yeah. Just kidding. So, and then it came down to when I was graduating, it was between BHC and getting my master's in transportation. But I wasn't sure I wanted to do transportation. I loved AutoCAD. That was, Civil 3D didn't matter, loved it, wanted to keep doing it. Transportation didn't really feel like it would fit me in that in that way. So I came to work here, and they pay for 100% of your master's. So
nice.
Currently I'm going to KU.
Cool.
To get my master's.
Smart.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So going to KU to get my master's, they're paying for it, which is fantastic because I am poor.
Yeah.
And yeah, here I am. Never thought I'd be doing
But so
parking
basically,
lots.
so when it all came down to it, your love of AutoCAD was
Yeah,
the thing that
and
won
so
out.
in
And so when you're doing AutoCAD, you've got to be engineer, you got to be a designer, you got to be something like that.
And in my interview, I think I let them know that I really enjoyed AutoCAD, and development's very AutoCAD heavy.
Yeah.
And they put me in here. Man, I haven't looked back since. It's a blast.
That's awesome.
I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it.
So what do you see? So like, what is it going to be like 5 years from now that we'll be able to go outside and like look at like augmented reality? Is it going to happen like a year from now? Like what's next? What's the future for you and for the things that you're doing?
Man, I don't know.
Is there some new crazy parking lot on the horizon that I don't know about?
Well,
is there?
yeah,
like,
let me tell you, it's actually a roller coaster.
Nice.
We built it in Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay.
So we have Seaboard Corporation over right next to Audi. It is a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah.
I mean, they're adding on 3 parking lots. I talked about it earlier a little bit, but I have a meeting with Pulse coming up. I'm gonna take over our plans, see if we can't get something together, because that project's not going to start getting built for a couple months. So see if we can get something where we can use augmented reality on this, because it's not a huge project, not a huge undertaking. It's even if we get one of the parking lots in, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
So, it could be in 2 months where we got something coming up, but it could. The thing is, no one that I know has really done something like this, so it's all new for us.
Okay.
So
you were on the precipice of something amazing, basically.
But there could also be someone else, listening right now that goes, "Oh, we've done that." So
been there, done that.
And that's a great thing about working here, and with Kevin Hanemichael, our president, is, he gives me those opportunities. If I present something to him and he says, "Yeah, you know what, this sounds promising, and I like where you're going, go ahead,
give it a try.
Just keep me up to date." Yeah. So
that's awesome. Yeah, if they're empowering you to try things and
right.
do things.
Yeah, they're not afraid to take that step.
That's going to make you that much happier because then you're like, nope, I'm sorry. You shut down, man.
Exactly,
It's not going to happen. Well, so this has been very exciting. All right. I feel like I've learned a lot today. My brain's a little kind of blown right now because when I first stepped into this interview, I'm like, oh, we're going to talk about engineering and stuff. And then now as we've nearing the end, I'm like, wow, I did not know so much went into parking lots.
Yeah, they really do.
And so I'm kind of like I feel very much so that the thing, you are kind of like the you're never going to get the acclaim, right? You're never gonna like when people see the hospital and see the building, no one's gonna say, man,
what a curb line.
Look how great that little hill is, and the way that the site, no one knows.
No.
Well, now they do.
Now they'll be like,
now they know.
Now they're going to stop looking at the buildings, and they're going to start looking at the parking lots.
That's pretty incredible.
They're going to say, well, how thick is this asphalt compared to over here?
That's 7 inches.
Because I mean, people walk into a parking lot and they're like, yeah, it's just asphalt. Well, no. I mean, depending on where it's put, you could have the varying depths. So, there's a lot more that goes into a parking lot than people think. Until I took this job and have loved it, I was probably the same way,
That's incredible.
It's a parking lot.
All right. So, we're nearing the end of our time today. I've learned a lot. This has been a lot of fun. I thank you so much for not kicking me out of this building.
Like I said, I tried very hard, but you overpowered me.
I'm very strong. This is your time to shine now. You can tell people maybe where they can find you or learn some more about BHC RHODES, your chance for some plugs here. So the floor is yours, sir.
So BHC RHODES is in the Darth Vader building off College and Metcalf. You can find me on LinkedIn, Austin Lage. That's AUSTINLAGE. Same on Facebook. If you have questions, feel free to contact me.
I'm sure there are going to be people that listen to this. I hope there are people that listen to this and they're like, whoa, Cole had no idea what he was talking about. I need to contact this guy. So I hope that people do contact you if they have any other questions, because I feel like I've just hit just kind of a very high level like overarching on what you do instead of like getting into the. I'm sure there are people listening to it like, man, all the details. What about this? What about this? What about this? Which
we could go on for hours.
Yeah, we could like completely just keep going on and on and on. But I think my brain would just get more blown, and then I'm going to just turn the floor over to you, and you can take over the show.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start asking you questions.
Do you have a question for me? Do you have anything you want to know? So thank you so much, Austin. Remember, folks, you can find us on our website, thekansascitypodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Kansas City Pod. And, of course, you can always follow me on Twitter at Cole Limburg. Austin, thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot. I really appreciate it. Thank you to BHC RHODES for having us. You can always find them on their website, ibhc.com. And we will see everybody next time here on the Kansas City Podcast.
Thank you very much.
See ya.